Hi, hello, and welcome to episode 14 of the Money Talks, season one. And it's again an amazing night. I've got an amazing entrepreneur in front of you, somebody who's done it all, right? And so we're going to have somebody who's been a cricket player, he's been a coach, he's coached people to win the World Cricket Championship. He's starred in a movie. He's a commentator. He's an anchor. There's just too many things. I could take an hour just to describe everything he does. So I'm gonna let that come in through the flow of the conversation today. But it is extremely an important pleasure for me to welcome Suhail Chandhok, the co-founder of Kabaddi Adda, a company that we funded in the seed round, on the show. Suhail, welcome. How are you?
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for a very, very nice, generous introduction. I'm sure it could also take just 5 minutes to explain all of what I've done, but you made it sound very, very exciting. But look, it's been an awesome journey, and it's been a great journey since we've sort of met in 2019 and been part of the Kabaddi Adda journey. So yeah, looking forward to this.
So great. And so, well, I know we talked about this. I think day before yesterday or yesterday when we were having a chat. You said it's very rare that you're on the other side of this conversation. So I'm going to try to make it as hard as you've made it on players in the past.
It's a nice feeling to not do the research, Eddie. That's all I can say. It's nice to sit back and answer questions for a change. It's good.
Well, the thing is, yeah. Hopefully, we've done our research this time. So we've got some big boots to fill up. But before we do that, Suhail, from your perspective, from your mouth, maybe you can tell the viewers what is Kabaddi Adda, what does it do?
So Kabaddi Adda essentially is a platform that is a content and media platform that is also a strong distribution network. And the aim of Kabaddi Adda was to connect the entire Kabaddi ecosystem, right? To be the voice for fans, to be the connect between fans and players, and also to be a platform where you just get great content all year round about Kabaddi. I mean, I've had the privilege of working on the Pro Kabaddi League since 2014, since its inception. And we saw 435 million viewers in that first season of Pro Kabaddi, right?
Wow.
But we noticed that there's 9 months outside of Pro Kabaddi as well. And the appetite for Kabaddi, therefore, is huge across the country. And we're not just talking about tier 2 to tier 5 cities, and towns, where we're talking about the urban cities as well today. So we saw this need and the appetite for Kabaddi and came up with, obviously, Kabbadi Adda. We came in with the mindset of being the cricinfo of Kabaddi in some sense. But I think we've developed into being the house of highlights of Kabaddi / the cricinfo of Kabaddi as well. And look, honestly, it's been nice and it's been a steady journey of growth. And today we're trying to sort of move into the gaming side of things. And COVID has taught us a few different lessons on how to pivot as well a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into that. But just for everyone's convenience, 435 million people is 1.5 times the population of the United States. So that's a huge number, especially for a non-cricket sport, right? Because I could imagine IPL and the Cricket World Cup having huge numbers. But you're talking about Kabaddi, right?
And that's just one season.
Exactly. And a sport that most of us, I don't even think could recollect ever watching as children, right? I think we were all cricket, maybe some field hockey, and basketball. We were all into like NBA, stuff like that. But now Kabaddi, look at the way it's come back. And to be honest, I didn't know how what an urban revolution Kabaddi was till Arvind took me for a Kabaddi game in Bangalore on a Monday night. And it was a packed stadium and it was so much fun. I think we saw like 3 games in a matter of 1.5 hours or 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was amazing that you could see so many games, have so much action. There was people in the stadium. It was, I would say, almost 85% full on a Monday night, and the home team wasn't even playing, right? Yeah. And that was really something to, for me was an eye opener that, that I probably had not realized how big it was.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think even for me, I'll be very honest, 6 years ago, I didn't ever think I would sit here and be called a Kabaddi analyst and commentator, right? There's no way in hell I would have anticipated that. But I think what's been incredible is honestly, when you come to the stadium, and you would have noticed this, right? When you come to the stadium, the cool thing about Kabaddi, which I've not noticed with any other sport, and I've watched a lot of sport, trust me, growing up and calling a lot of sport today as well from stadiums, is that you see entire families turning up, right? And maybe that's because our grandparents were all growing up on Kabaddi, right? It was very special to them. The kids today find Kabaddi cool again. So there's the grandparents and parents. And then the parents are now the kebab mein haddi where they have to turn up, right? So in a way, you've sort of got all three generations now roped in to watch Kabaddi, and all of them are turning up. You've got such a high percentage of women watching Kabaddi as well. I mean, my wife is addicted to Kabaddi, doesn't watch cricket but loves Kabaddi. So, it's, I think, the fast-paced nature, as you said, in 2 hours you're watching two games, right? And two full-fledged games. So I think it's got all the ticks to have a success story, and it has over the last 6 years. It's been amazing.
I mean, and I think it's like American football. It has the contact element. It's got all the drama. I mean, sitting next to Arvind, I felt I was in the middle of some soap opera that was happening, and because you just knew this one, that one, and what's going on over here and there. But we'll get into that. I think Kabaddi itself is so exciting. I think we'll get sidetracked if we don't start talking about the flow that we discussed. But that being said, let's have a chat about your journey, right? And then we'll get into why you're part of Kabaddi Adda. So you obviously come from a sports family, right? And their father was a race car driver. The brother is the well-known, Chandhok, again, a Formula One driver. He's now in the Formula E circuit, I believe. And then you've been a cricketer, right? And so let's discuss, like, what was it like growing up, and what made you take up sports?
Well, I guess sport was all around me. As you said, I grew up in sport. My grandmom used to rally and race. My granddad then founded motorsport pretty much in many ways in India. My dad, as you said, was a racing and rally driver. My brother was on four wheels, was a Formula One driver, now works with Sky Sports as an F1 pundit. So I had sport all around me. I think I picked the less expensive sport to make sure my dad didn't live on the streets. So I picked cricket over four wheels. But I think for me, I was always drawn to bat ball sports. I started playing tennis early on. My tennis coach told me to come back after I was taller than the net. So that sort of pushed me away from the game a little bit. But yeah, there's a picture.
There you go.
But I mean, I think you can't stay away from it, right? I mean, my brothers probably shoved that helmet on top of my head, and it was just part and parcel of culture in our home. And I remember having posters of not Sachin Tendulkar, but I had like Graham Thorpe and Justin Langer and Andy Flower, and my brother would always make fun of me because I'd watch Sepak Takraw, which I don't even know how many people would know what sport that is. It's Malaysian kick volleyball, right? I used to watch that, or table tennis at the Asian Games. So, I mean, I was just a sport mad kid. And I think for me, I always knew that passion would sort of translate. And when I chose cricket finally as the sport that I was sort of taking up professionally, it took me a while before I could sort of settle on one. But when I did, I think I was very focused on saying, okay, that's my sport and I'm going to dedicate myself to that. But yeah, I mean, sport for me is life, man. It's taught me a lot of lessons. It's taught me more than I've learned in any form of schooling or university, I would say.
It's so interesting. In fact, two of our founders that have been on the show before you, both found their co-founders in sports teams that they were playing, right? One founded in a football team, and I think the other one founded in a cricket team that they were playing. So, and somehow it seems, and by the way, both those founders are AVF portfolio companies. So somehow it seems that in our portfolio, we've got a lot of sports people. But that being said, it must have been.
If anyone here is looking for funding from AVF, join a sports team now, basically.
Exactly, right away. That's what you should be doing. But that being said, it must have been difficult for to borrow cars from friends, considering there were so many rally car drivers in the family.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a workshop going next door. But yeah, I mean, look, I think we had a very different childhood, right? I had a motocross bike when I was 7 or 8 years old, and my dad took off the speed limiter to make us and allow us to go quicker. I remember we would go to my neighbor's place. My brother was testing how to do a handbrake turn at the age of 13, and we hit a coconut tree. And I, of course, ran home, being the younger brother, to go complain about him. And my dad just came back, and I thought, here we go, he's in trouble. And my dad just said, no, hang on, let me show you how it's done. So I mean, that's the weird parenting. And I think any other parent would think, you guys are mad, you're parenting wrong. But look, I think we turned out okay. And I'm thankful for that sort of upbringing to learn lessons in a very different way, in a very practical way, but also therefore actually understand the value of having certain ethics, certain morals, and how to work for something in a particular way, right? I think they were very, very clear that if you wanted something, you chase it. But look, we're here to support you, but you've got to then go after it and do a good job of it. Don't come crying to me after if something goes wrong, right? And I think that was always important to us.
And I think it comes into the first question we'll take from the audience. Divish Gala asks, with a family full of motorsports professionals and enthusiasts, what made you choose cricket instead?
It's funny. I think like I said earlier, I was just drawn to bat ball sports initially. It was always this hand-eye coordination for me that was very, very quick to come to me. I grew up playing a lot of tennis, played state level tennis, played table tennis and badminton quite seriously, and then took to cricket. And I think once I sort of found my calling within the VB Chandrasekhar Cricket Academy. He passed away sadly last year, but I captained their academy for 5-6 years, and then I sort of realized that I think this is something that I want to chase. And I think till I actually then moved to Australia, I didn't realize how serious that as a profession could be and could take me to the IPL and things like that. So I think it happened quite organically. I never stopped playing the other sports. Even today, I just pick up and play every sport I can possibly play. Kid in my apartment complex has a basketball hoop up, and now in COVID times, that's all I'm doing in the evenings, playing basketball. So yeah, it started with just
And
playing
you
a
work
lot.
out, and all the videos are all over Instagram.
Yeah, well, part of it. But I think that's the thing, right? I think when you're so surrounded by sport, you pick up on different ones, and one sort of just sits with you, right? And I think for me that was, and in India it's not hard for it to be cricket, but I think I was quite realistic that if it didn't, and if it wasn't going to take me anywhere, if I wasn't good enough at it, don't pursue cricket because there's 1.2 billion people pursuing it. So unless you're
True.
good enough, I think that dream has to have some form of reality as well.
But you did. I think before you turned professional, you became a coach, right? Which is a very interesting twist. To again, a different way to go through your career. But what I realized is that you coach not the Indian. You weren't the Shah Rukh Khan for the Indian cricket team and taking them to the final, but you actually coached the Australian cricket team. And I would imagine that at that time when you were doing it, they had such a solid structure. And here is an Indian guy going and he's gonna go coach the Australian cricket team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to understand how did this all happen.
So
And
it was really strange. As you said, I think again, I was 18 years old when I moved to Australia, 17, 18, started playing cricket there. And then I needed a part-time job. I needed to make some money and literally went to the SACA, the South Australian Cricket Association, did my level 1 cricket coaching certification, then followed it up with a level 2. And for my level 2, I had to coach a team full-time. And this was while I was playing serious cricket as well. I was playing against the likes of Sean Tate and Jason Gillespie and Darren Lehman and all these guys. But as part of that, I needed to coach, right, to get my level 2 certification. So I joined a women's cricket team as coach. I didn't realize I was going to get the head coach job. I coincidentally happened to coach Megan Schutt, Shelley Nishki, Karen Rolton was part of the league as well. And these are all women now who, Shelley Nishki and Megan Schutt, have been world number 1 for Australia. I've won the World Cup with Australia. I actually saw Megan win the World Cup in Bombay not so long ago. So it was quite a cool feeling to see that happen. For me, I think coaching taught me a lot, and particularly coaching women, it is very different, right? The strengths of women cricketers to men cricketers is very different. So it taught me a lot about my game, how to understand my own game, and then I applied that to my own cricket. And I think it made me a better cricketer in Australia. I then went to England and played professionally there, and then came back and got invited by RCB to join their camp ahead of the
and
championship.
let's talk about that. Getting into the IPL. Which years were you there as part of the RCB squad?
So I was there end of 2009, ahead of the Champions League T20, which was in South Africa. So I was part of a squad of 20, which they had shortlisted. I literally came in last minute, but I mean, it was surreal, right? I grew up in my home, pretending to be Anil Kumble as a leg spinner growing up, and here I was suddenly facing Anil Kumble, and he was captain of the team then. So for me, that took a lot of adjusting initially and then I had to, after 3 balls, I had to switch in and say, hang on, you're here because you deserve it. So stop looking at Anil Kumble and watch the ball and play the ball, right? And once that adjustment happened, obviously, and I'd been away from home for 5 years, so I didn't really understand the might of the IPL in 2009, right? So when I came straight back into it as a 22-year-old, it was quite something. So you had Virat Kohli and Anil Kumble and Jacques Kallis and Mark Boucher and all these guys around. So yeah, it was a very, very cool experience. I wish it lasted longer, and I wish my knee lasted longer. Unfortunately, the surgeries that followed came at possibly the worst time possible. But look, I think everything happens for a good reason in the end.
No, of course, and I think you've obviously always brought that out. In fact, I think Dhanya's on the show right now. She's like, she says that she never realized that he coached the Australian women's cricket team. What an
Well, not the
experience.
Australian women's cricket team,
Dania,
but
yes, you
players
did,
from the
and
Australian
you
team.
found out, and well, you found out at the money talks, just so you know. but but then, so however, getting into something like the IPL and getting at the ground roots. So you're talking about 2009. I
Yeah.
think IPL was just starting to become really, really mainstream, right? And it was causing an entire social structure change in India. It was completely redoing the world map when it came to where India was in the cricket world. And you were obviously seeing this from the inside.
Yeah.
So how did that help you understand what Kabaddi would do? Or was there any kind of things you could take and say, you know what, I know what's going to happen in Kabaddi?
I think with Kabaddi it was a little different, and yeah, I think there were lots of learnings from there, and being involved with Kabaddi from season one and before season one began, it was so weird, right? Because I had just moved on from sort of being in Chennai and having done a film and things like that to and having ended my professional cricket career to suddenly finding myself at Star Sports with this grand opportunity, and the show that I actually joined Star with went kaput within 3 months of me joining because India and England were playing a tour and the timings didn't match. So here came this opportunity to be a Kabaddi commentator, and everyone was hesitant, right? And I said, I've always wanted to be a commentator. It's something I think I could do, and I put my hand up and said, hey, I learned Kabaddi again, and let's do it. But there was so much hesitation, AD. I remember people around the office at Star, right? Everyone is laughing, saying, "Oh, what's next? Gilly Danda League? What's next? The Coco League?" And that was sort of the feel behind it. But the day before the league started, when we saw the lights go off inside the dome at the NSCI above the stadium, and I remember sitting in the commentary box. I mean, I've got goosebumps now because I remember this moment so vividly. I sat there and I turned to my co-commentator and I just said, I think we're onto something, and there was something about it. There was just something about it in that moment that we realized that, this could be just a big hit. And then when day one happened, it just blew everyone away. It blew the entire nation away. And I think that's when everyone realized, okay, hang on, this is serious stuff.
And it hasn't obviously gotten over yet. I think Kabaddi is just getting started, and I think the 10-year Star Sports contract just came up, and
Correct.
there's a lot of expectation of what's going to happen. I think when these contracts get renegotiated, and there'll be so much money getting poured in. But before we do that, I think there is you brought it up, but we have done some research,
Oh God.
and let's talk about your attempt at being in front of the camera in a movie called Viram.
Yeah.
Most people may not know this. So here it is. This is Suhail in that movie. In fact, Ajit, who's the actor, found you in a short movie that you had done,
Yeah.
and you were. I think there were four brothers in the movie, and you were one of the brothers.
Yeah.
And all I remember is I remember seeing a shot from the YouTube video, and we're going to share the link for everyone to see right now, where where I think you've got a towel over your neck, and you're just wearing jeans. You're in the Salman Khan mode, basically. And and it was like, it took me a while. I was like, which brother is he? And then you see this big beard, right? And you're like, oh, that's Suhail. So tell me, how did you get this movie? What was the experience like?
Yeah, so it was a funny one, right? I think I went through a very dark phase. I think after I lost my cricket career, I went through, I'd say 8-10 months where I was living with my parents at the time and just didn't see them. I was in one room, locked my room, didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone. I think lived with a lot of sort of hate, a lot of I don't know, disregard for where I was, and just obviously having worked so hard for a cricket career that I finally could feel was tangibly there with an IPL career. Having that let go, I think was a hard time. So I was sort of wallowing in self-pity. And finally, I think I was doing a lot of introspection, a lot of reading. And finally, a friend of mine said, what are you doing? Wake up, do something with your creative juices. You've loved theater growing up. You've done all of that. You're a funny guy. Put something together. And literally wrote a series of short films and put them together. I'm not going to share the link of that. But,
Oh my God.
but
I'm going to ask my team to find it before the show's over.
And oddly enough, I mean, so this sort of went around, and I wasn't going to put it up. Then my brother and a cousin of mine said, "Hey, this is really funny. You've got to put this up." Put it up, and obviously it was shared by friends of friends. And Ajit's wife actually got hold of it, and Ajit then watched it. And I got a call, and I remember this call distinctly. I got a call from Ajit, and he said, "Hey, Suhail, it's Ajit here." And so I thought it was Ajit from my cricket team. And I was like, "Hey, Ajit, how are you doing, man?" Da, 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 da. And went on, right? And then he said, "This is actor Ajit." And then I thought, hang on, this is no, can't be, right? Why would he be calling me, sort of thing? And look, he is I mean, he's got people following him outside his home, standing outside his home. He's a wonderful guy who I've got a lot of respect for, but I did not expect, therefore, for him to be calling me. And when that happened, he said, "Look, I saw this, really liked it. There's an opportunity to do a film, and I think I've got you in mind for a role. And would you be interested? Are you still playing cricket? Are you done with that side of your career? Would you be interested?" And I've always been someone that, as I said earlier, I think believes that everything happens for a good reason. And when an opportunity comes, don't shove it aside. Knock on that door and barge through it. And I took it, and I said, "Look, bucket list, tick. Let's do a Tamil movie." And it was an amazing experience. I mean, working with Ajit, working with Tamanna and Santanam, and the director Shiva, it was really quite something. Under pressure there, but also just seeing the magnanimity of it, right? I mean, we had posters that were 100 feet tall of us at the release, and people are pouring milk on the posters and drinking it from under the posters, and all of this stuff. It just is mad, right? It's mad, but it's real as well. And I mean, I remember we shared a love for biking, so we would ride together from Chennai to Kotagiri and to Hyderabad and things like that. And there were people chasing us and tailing us in safaris and sumos just to touch him, or they would touch my hand and say, "You've touched him," and I've now felt Ajit's aura through you. And it was genuine love for him, right? It was very genuine love. And so all of that combined was just such a crazy experience, and one that I absolutely enjoyed, really. And to see the movie come out the way it did and have the success it did was quite incredible.
And before we get into the success, and this was obviously an awesome success, and I've got some stats here for you, but a lot of the times entrepreneurs forget that that behind every successful entrepreneur there are years and years of self-wallowing. There's years and years of of frustration, of self-doubt, and all these things. To those guys, what's your message to them? That, let's say someone in the audience today is going through something like this. What would be your advice to them through this phase?
I would say, introspect a little bit, understand what you're feeling and what's the worst, right? I think at one level, I started to ask myself, what's the worst that could happen, right? I might be at my worst here, so from here on, it's only upwards. But I think the key is also to surround yourself with very good people. It's very easy for people to give you advice, and you'll get a lot of advice, more at that point than you really can ask for. But I think it's to therefore surround yourself with the right advice and people that really you trust, because I think those are the only ones, and they'll only be, I mean, I can count them on maybe one hand, right? And those are the ones that are giving you advice with you in mind, not their own advice, but advice with you and your success in mind. So I think those are two things for me that I would do. And I just went back to things that I lost out on, right? I started reading, I read a few really good, I wouldn't call them, self-help books, but I think really inspirational books. There's one called The Compassionate Samurai, which I really love. I think it's a great book for everyone to read. It just tells you about how to live an ethical life, a life of a samurai, and with good values. And I think that book for me really spoke to me at that time, and that really lifted me. So I think something's got to tick, right? For me, it was that book, and I'm not a big reader, so I don't read fiction, but that book, for some reason, at that point, spoke to me and lifted me, I think. So each one's got to find
ethical samurai.
The compassionate samurai.
The Compassionate Samurai.
Yeah.
I would ask my team if they could find a link, the Amazon link to that book, and share it in the comments below. So then obviously out of nowhere, and we, from a very chance thing that you did to get, and thanks to some friends, you get into a movie. And just so you know, guys, the movie was released in 2014. It amassed 58 crores in its first week, right? And I think that would have been impressive for a Bollywood movie. Remember, this was from Kollywood, right? Which was the Tamil film industry. The movie grossed total of 147 crores. Was one of the top grossing movies, I think, in the Tamil industry that year. Probably even in the top 10 or 15 movies in India at that time. And that too for a non-traditional language, right? Which is Tamil, which obviously would not have been, would have missed out the entire North Indian sector on it. So did you think the movie would be that big?
I think as it went on, like the film shoots where every picture that was released would just go berserk on the internet. I started understanding the craze behind it, right? I mean, I obviously understood how respected Ajit was in the industry and in the film fraternity, but I didn't realize how crazy this could get. I didn't expect. I mean, I expected big numbers. I'll be honest. I didn't expect those numbers. I remember going to the first day, first show of the film around different theaters. We were doing sort of different viewings, and I had a cousin of mine from America at the time. Doesn't speak a word of Tamil, obviously. A white cousin of mine from America. He went through 6 first day, first shows at different theaters.
Wow.
Just because he loved the craze of it, right? And it was just it was just entertaining to be a part of it, to feel the energy of the people, and yeah, it was just a very positive sort of set of people's love that was coming your way, which was quite incredible. So yeah, I didn't expect that level of success for the film. Look, it's all down to Ajit and his reach as well and everything that he did, but it was obviously nice to be a small part of it, and I think there was a lot of lessons to be learned from there, and just spending time with everyone, the conversations I had on set and shooting over 100 days with everyone there was really quite incredible.
Now, after such a big movie and the kind of result, why haven't we seen you in some more movies? Why not Bollywood?
I think you should ask Star Sports on that, because I think the timing of Star, and again, that was just a freakish. A friend of mine went into an audition. I just went in with her thinking, oh, I've got to see Star Sports. It's Star Sports. My God, I love sport. I love Star Sports. I just want to see The Office. And she went in for an audition. As she was leaving, she said, I don't even know why I'm here. I mean, I don't like sport. You guys should talk to Suhail. He's not playing sport anymore. And that's how Star Sports happened in June 2014, which was a few months after the release of Veeram. So when that happened, for me, I think that was in many ways the perfect fit, right? I think, in the movie industry, let's be honest, and there's so much talk of that right now with obviously Sushant and everything else going on, that if you are an outsider to the industry, it is harder. It is harder. I think whether that's because, you don't have the network base, whether it's also just to be recognized, or whether that's in your blood that it's not there, it is harder. And I think the volatility of it, therefore, is much higher. When Star Sports came along, I think for me, it was the perfect sort of alignment and amalgamation of the camera and sport. And so for me, it was sort of just the perfect unity of both those things that in many ways I love, right? Being in front of the camera and sort of sharing thoughts and views, but also having sport be the context behind it. So when that happened, I think I made a conscious choice to make that switch. And Star Sports has been a flat out. I mean, I lived out of a suitcase for those first 2 years, so didn't have time to really dedicate to anything else. And that was the first live on-ground interview I did, actually. And I wish it was an easier introduction to live sporting events, but hey, that's as good as it'll come with Sachin. And it was a very memorable.
I would say, man, that I think you should auction that photograph. We could raise a Series A for Kabaddi Adda with that.
But, I mean, that was in Guwahati, packed stadium, football, where, and I was told 10 minutes before that, hey, Sachin's coming in. Your first interview is going to be with Sachin. I'm going, thanks, guys. Thanks for the heads up. Let me do some research now. But look, the thrill of live TV, I think if there was anything today, as someone who had missed out on a potential cricket career, I think the thrill of live TV and the adrenaline rush you get from that is maybe sort of a fraction of what that could be. And it gives me that little bit of a sportsman's high.
And you've done amazingly at Star Sports. IPL, Cricket World Cup, Pro Kabaddi League, Wimbledon, French Open Tennis, ISL Football, Rio Olympics 2016, Premier Badminton League, Hockey India League, Celebrity Classico Football, and you were the presenter and producer for FIA Formula E, which is what Karun was also part of for the Mahindra team. Wow, that's a mouthful. That's a lot of work in a very short period of time. I think this is like 5 years of work. I mean, are you amazed at where you were in 2013 or 12 or 13, and how just a chance of doing short movies, what it has led to?
It's mad. I mean, honestly, I feel very blessed. I think, that's why I think every day when someone asks me, if tomorrow I was to lose all, my work, my whatever else, I think, I still just look back and think, wow, what an opportunity I've had. Because, look at that one picture, right, of me and Sachin. For me, that as a kid, I got a picture of me growing up, and I'll send it to you after maybe, and unfortunately didn't send it earlier, but I've got a picture of me with Sachin and Kambli as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, right? And and I'm beaming there. And to have that sort of come around and be on field. And I've interviewed him a few times. I interviewed him actually at the IPL final last year on the field before the toss between Mumbai Indians and Chennai. And for me, that is such a huge thrill, right? So yeah, I mean, when I think back now to think I've done an Olympics or Wimbledon with Sanya, standing with likes of Sunil Gavaskar and Sachin and VVS Lakshman and Sangakkara and these guys who I now play golf with. I mean, part of my golfing four-ball is Brian Lara, Dean Jones, and Scott Styris, and
wow.
and today I call them really good friends of mine. And to look back and think this was possible when I was at an absolute low in that year of 2012 and 2013. I just feel blessed, and I think I will be honest. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Today, I think all the random watching of sepak takraw and all these other random sports that I watched growing up has come to fruition, because that I think in many ways has enabled me to understand all these other sports, which many other presenters I guess don't do. They stick to one sport or two sports. But look, I think it also goes to show when you've got a dream, you've got to understand that I think that dream and the manifestation of that dream changes paths right along the way. And I think you've got to be able to sort of be fluid enough to move around and follow the path, and not just have, this is my dream, this is the only way I'm going to reach it. And if I don't get there in this manner, I'm done. And that took a while to maybe sink in for me.
And I think that's the same thing with entrepreneurship, right? There's never going to be that one single straight path. Most entrepreneurs forget that, it's success seems to look like it was destined when you look at it from the past tense, right? When you're actually in it, you just have no idea which way you're going. You're just sort of, it's like climbing Everest, right? You're just going up and up and up and up. You don't know what's in front of you, and suddenly you realize you're at the top of the mountain. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one day can change it, right? I mean, you sign one little partnership with someone, and your entire startup could go from pretty much nothing to something completely different. I mean, think of someone like House of Highlights, right? He was a random guy who was putting up Instagram videos. One day, LeBron James commented on a picture of his that he put up. The next day, the NBA had a deal with him going to start using their highlight reels on his page. And today, the guy's a multi-millionaire and has been bought in. So I just think it takes that one day, right? That one click. We all talk about that little spark, and I mean, this better than many, right? You would have seen it with all your portfolio companies. When you get
how many times have I seen a company at I mean, I can tell my own example. When we're running this company in the US, down to $10 in our bank account, right? And you've got a $7,000 rent check to pay, and you have no idea how the money's going to pass. And then next thing you know, you're selling the company. Like, oh wow, what really happened? Like, and obviously it's like, I think I remember there's a story about Picasso, I think, where he's drawing something at a cafe, and a woman asks him for what he's drawing, and he says, it's going to cost you $200,000 or whatever that number he might have given at that time. And she goes, wow, just for 10 minutes of work, you want $200,000? He's like, that's not 10 minutes of work. That's 20 years of work right in front of you. Yeah, exactly. And I'm really proud to obviously have someone like you, I mean, to converse with, that you bring that culture to Kabaddi Adda, and I think the team, especially what happened during COVID, I think is a testament to the kind of people that are running Kabaddi Adda, that we made it out through the entire process. And I think actually Kabaddi Adda has come out much stronger and much more resilient, I think, and I think with a much better business plan than when we went into COVID. I think COVID was almost like, the smelter that removed all the impurities and made it into, hard metal.
Yeah,
do you feel that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, since you're on that, let me just give you some of the numbers, right? From just COVID times. I mean, our YouTube has, in just COVID, had 29.9 million views now. We've got 274,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Followed in the first 3 months of lockdown, our Instagram page has had 25 lakh plus views, an impression of over 57 lakh users. So these are numbers that for us are staggering. We've also gone into gaming, pivoted there. We've managed to get a partner on to launch Supercric, which is coming in just before the IPL on the 12th. We've got some Kabaddi games coming up. And yeah, I think, kudos to everyone that's worked so hard within our Kabaddi Adda team, and to all the other co-founders. I think we rallied together at the right time. And obviously with the support of you guys, I think we've understood that we had to act fast and very differently, right? We knew that there was not going to be live sport and live Kabaddi as a contact sport coming back anytime soon. And we sort of applied all the learnings of...
And that's what's impressive, Suhail. All these numbers are coming when Kabaddi wasn't being played live. right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys launched a couple of programs like Ghar se Panga, Retro Live,
Yeah.
and those have obviously driven all these
Yeah.
numbers, you know. So let's get into that. Let's talk about, like, you've been a presenter. You obviously, we've talked about Star Sports, but what inspired you to start Kabaddi Adda?
It's really funny. I used to bump into Arvind, who's a co-founder at Kabaddi Adda, at different IPL auctions. So I used to host the IPL auctions, and Arvind used to work with, quite closely with CSK. We still do a lot of data stuff for CSK through our holding company, Analytic Technology. And we sort of used to keep bumping into each other. We would then meet at the Puneri Paltan table when he was doing the Pro Kabaddi auction, and we sort of had chats there. And then it sort of led from there into saying, hey, we're thinking about writing Suhail, would you want to write a Kabaddi book with me, and things like that. So that's sort of where the conversation started. But we just got off on the right foot, and we just said, hang on, we want to do something together, right? And we kept sort of thinking about it. We kept bumping into each other once every few months, and we say, hey, let's do something. And then finally, I think, the thought process came together to put Kabaddi Adda, all together. And we had, they sort of started the process and then said, hey, Suhail, would you want to come on board? And obviously there's a lot of value add there. And I think the team was so passionate as well. We've got a young team, but a super, super passionate team. And I think that's what you need for a young startup. And so that's where it all sort of started. And yeah, I think we sort of haven't looked back since. And I can't say, look, it's never smooth sailing, as you know, with a startup. It's never going to be all smooth sailing. So there's plenty of challenges. Obviously, broadcast rights and all of that comes into the picture. But I think to just establish yourself as a credible source of information, a credible source of content, and develop relationships within the Kabaddi ecosystem. That's sort of been our big takeaway for the first couple of years, right? I think we've done that to a very high degree.
Obviously, Arvind was a second-time entrepreneur, but even in his first startup, he was sort of he didn't actually found the company. He was hired as a CEO. So this actually was for the first time, four of you guys getting together and launching a company for the first time. And even in your career, you've not actually been an entrepreneur, right? And so this is the first time for all of you guys. And then you come to a first-time fund manager like me, right? Who's also, trying to figure out, just got a SEBI license, trying to figure out where to put money. We've got a little bit of money from investors. And a first-time entrepreneurs meeting first-time fund manager, right? Why don't you talk about what that experience was like and why you chose Artha Venture Fund as a partner?
So I've got to say, the first-time entrepreneur meeting the first-time fund manager, the first-time meeting went really well. It went better than we thought. I mean, obviously, I think we had done a few conferences in Bombay as well. And I think our pitch was when we sort of got noticed first up by colleagues of yours as well. And I think that's sort of where our introduction to Artha came in, and we met a couple of people from your team there. But obviously, I think we did a little digging and to understand that there was a very Bharat aligned thought process at that time from a lot of your portfolio companies as well. And I think when we sort of put our entire pitch deck together, we didn't expect it to maybe go as smoothly as it did when we got into the room. I think, and from me talking to now a lot of other founders and a lot of other entrepreneurs, I don't think people have gone to a table and actually come out of it saying, hang on, you've got pretty much convinced the VC and come away with a good feeling of saying, I think we've got a deal on our hands that we're both happy with, right? And I think that sort of was, that's us confirming the deal in writing, which, as we all know, takes time to sort of process the paperwork and stuff like that. But I think to just go into that first meeting, I'll sort of, for everyone watching, maybe just give you a refresher of how it could go for you. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it goes as well as it did with us, with AD and with Artha. But I remember sitting in that conference room and, pitching to you and Arvind being the numbers guy and me being the marketing sort of guy who understood the sports side of it. And, we had all these strategies in place, which after a point actually just went out the window because we were just having a conversation. We were answering, your questions quite honestly as much as we could, and sort of talking about what we thought was the scope of Kabaddi. And what we really liked was your passion for sport, your understanding of sport and sort of the ecosystem as well. But also you guys, I mean, we got a feeling that it was a very supportive environment. And what's most pleasing is that 12 months or longer down the line, we still have that feeling, right? And I think that is something that you don't often get with VCs. there's so many other things that could go one way or the other. And even through COVID times, I think the continuous check-ins from you guys, or whether it's can you put us on to someone else, and that immediately happens, is that instantaneous sort of cohesive approach between a VC and us as the startup. I think that for us really was encouraging. And I remember literally on that table, I think we pretty much closed the deal on our first meeting, just knowing.
Yeah, we were done. I think it was just semantics after that, right? So, we both knew we were going to make this thing happen. It was just like, okay, now the lawyers need to figure it out. Yeah. But yeah, I think what I really liked was that there was a lot of clarity of thought. Yeah. And obviously introduced by Karan Maheshwari, who's a school friend of mine. I think he worked with Arvind at McKinsey, and what really helped was that you all came with a very clean deal. You're like, okay, listen, we want to do what's right, what's fair, and this is how much money we need. And I think that all of that combined, I was just like, you know what, if you're not going to support entrepreneurs like that, I don't think we need to be in the VC business in the first place. And it really was the overall. I think really it's been an enjoyable 18 months that we've been together. I think now at this point. And I think as we go along, what really truly surprises me is that the amount of opportunities you guys are opening up as we go along. And I'm really excited about this leg, this whole supercric game, and then obviously watch play win that we're going to talk about. All this stuff is very, very exciting. And I never thought this would happen. I think this is a direct product of COVID, that this whole idea actually came in. Suhail, with that, maybe tell us a little bit about what's this new game, what's this new beta you guys are launching, and what is it about? How can people participate? Yeah.
So supercric is what it's called. It is not a fantasy game, but it's actually an online cricket simulation game. All of us sitting at home, and I think COVID has taught us that, right? There's so much that goes on where you can't just rely on fantasy sport. There are times where there's not going to be live sport. So what do you do to keep a fan engaged at that point? And I think fan engagement is a big one, right? I read a report recently, which was very interesting. It said 81% or 79% of people within the age group of 16 to 45, when they're watching television, watch with a second device in their hand, right? And I think for us, and for me, that was a big eye opener, right? And that sort of feeds into the watch, play, win, and to supercric, and that means you've got to keep a fan engaged, right? And they're also looking for other stuff to do. So here comes supercric, which is an online cricket simulation game. It's based on skill and strategy, but it's also based on our cricket simulation tool, which we're very proud about. It's our proprietary tool, which is actually based on historical real data of IPLs, of tournaments that all of these guys have played. And so it's very real simulation that you get. So all of us have this habit of screaming at the TV screen saying, hey, MS Dhoni, I could have done that better. You shouldn't have bowled, so-and-so Harbhajan Singh in the 17th over. You should have bowled, someone else, Karan Sharma or someone else in the 17th, or Virat Kohli. How could you have made that judgment call of sending someone else at number 3, right? And we're giving you the opportunity to make those calls in the palm of your hand. So with supercric, what you can do essentially is change the outcome of a match based on your inputs. And there's 2 versions of it. There's a quick match where you just set your batting order and your bowling lineup, and it simulates the first half. And then at the mid-game break, you set up, whether it's your batting first or second, your batting order or bowling lineup. But then the play-by-play, I think, is where it gets even more, interesting. You get to pick your bowler for every over. You pick the next batsman in, and it simulates the game. And it sort of just gives you an idea of what could be different, could be done different. And obviously then who you could have picked differently. Could you have played 3 spinners instead of 2 and things like that? So what it actually does, it also facilitates fantasy gamers, right? If I was someone who was playing Dream 11 or my Team 11, I would say, hey, let me run this match through supercric. Let me play 5 games of supercric and think about what the output of this is, and use those learnings to then pick my best team for Dream 11 or my Team 11. So I think you've got a lot of people now, a lot of gamers online on YouTube doing coaching videos for your PUBGs or your Call of Duty and for your fantasy games. Here's literally a live coaching tool to facilitate better choices on each of these fantasy tools to make you earn more money in the end as well.
Wow. And this is free? Are you guys charging for this game? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's free to play at the start. We also have coins that you will earn on the side. We're trying to sort of team up at this point with a couple of e-commerce platforms. Hopefully that'll come through soon to maybe then utilize the coins that you earn on the e-commerce platforms too. So we reward you with I think 10,000 points when you start things off, and so you've got that going. And I think it's about appetite, right? I think that's why the freemium model works. When you sort of come when you got a gamer coming in, they want to get a sample of it before they pay for anything, right? And I think that's where for us we wanted that to be unlocked first and give people a sample of what it is, because it is a very different product to what is out there in the market at the moment.
And obviously supercric is now an app, because I remember it was earlier a website. Now is it an app? What's coming up?
It is still a website. I think it runs smoother as a website. It's cleaner, so it's still supercric.com. We've got the beta version up. Ignore the front end. That's going to change drastically in the next 5 to 6 days. But on September 12th is when we'll have our full thorough launch of it, and it's exciting.
So www.supercric.com, right? Well, what's the correlation of this with Kabaddi? I mean, you're going back to cricket now.
Well, I think COVID makes you do funny things. I think in adversity, we saw opportunity, right? I think that's all it was. I think where we started things off was actually talking about a Kabaddi game, and that's still happening. But we thought, hey, we've got so much of these learnings from our Kabaddi game, and we're so well versed there. But we've also got the experience of our team having helped CSK with auctions at the IPL for years and years. We've got all that data collected from the IPL. Let's do something with that. Let's put our minds together. We've got a great team. I mean, Danya, has an AI brain on her, and Srikanth, who's part of our co-founder team as well. He's got the IIT brain on him as well. And, we've got Arvind and myself. And I think what's nice about our 4 co-founding partners is that we're all very different, right? We each bring a very different skill set. So in that sense, none of us is overlapping on the other. And I think because you've got 4 different skill sets coming together, you actually get to pick the best of each part of one side of it, whether it's the marketing and sort of product design and business sort of partnerships from me, or the business side of it and the numbers from Arvind, or the AI and the machine learning side of it from Arvind and from Danya and Srikanth. We've got 4 very different elements coming together. So we thought, why not? The IPL's around the corner. That's probably going to be the first event that's going to open things up. And it's sort of, we anticipated this early on, and kudos to our entire team for anticipating that the IPL will most likely happen around this time, and we worked overnight to put a game together, pretty much overnight.
So what we're going to do is let's move over to the rapid fire side. This is, as I said, the only part of the entire flow that I've not talked to you about. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Whatever first comes to mind, you need to answer them right away, and then we'll probably delve into it deeper. So question number 1, and this is a question that I ask every founder. One thing that you know to be true, but very few people agree with you on it.
Oh, one thing I know to be true and very few people agree. That there are good VCs around.
Oh, wow. Wow, it's true. Actually, I do believe that I have personally met, and not just in India, but outside, VCs that actually have so much care for the entrepreneur. Yeah. And are actually putting up a body of work which will obviously exist years and decades after they leave. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that. So one piece about entrepreneurship that you received and you still follow that today.
Be persistent. Don't expect things to happen overnight, and just keep digging, keep grinding.
Yeah, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. That's what I would say. Yeah. In order of importance to you, team, founder, customers, investors. How would you put that in order of importance? With the most important at the start and the least important at the end.
Team, customers, founders together, I would say. Investors, I think if you get the first 3 done, I think the investors will be taken care of. And that's why I have investors at the end. Not that they're not important. I mean, I think investors are the most important peg and you value them. But I think if you focus on the first 3 and you don't actually focus on the investor, then that just takes care of itself.
No, I completely agree. I think shareholder returns are always derivatives, right? If you get, I think the customer right, and you've got the team there, and the founders, I think after that, everything else, the investors will obviously be part of it. Many people don't realize that actually your investors team and your founders are actually investors in the company in the first place too.
And I think I think a lot of people don't realize there's so much of a chase to raise money, right? But I think the trouble is once you raise money, the actual work starts there, right? I think
Exactly.
you've got to understand that once you raise money, it's not, hey, job done, I've raised money. It's actually then that the pressure starts. So the work and the pressure starts just after that.
If you could pick the brain of one person for 24 hours, ask them anything you ever wanted, who would it be?
Wow. Oh man, that's a tough one. I'll come back to that.
It's rapid fire. You can't come back to this.
I would actually say maybe Nelson Mandela.
Nelson, okay. And why? What would you want to learn from him?
I mean, just the ability to forgive after everything that he was put through, right? I think the ability to forgive and come back and be the way he was after. I mean, it's mind blowing, man. When you read some of the stuff that he went through to then come out and actually accept the same people that put him through it. Wow. I mean, just the stories that you could get out of that would be sensational. And I think that for me would really appeal. I think Vivian Richards would be the other one that maybe I would love to share 24 hours with. This he would have some wild stories. That's all.
Yeah. Especially with some Caribbean rum, I think that would be great 24 hours.
Old Jamaican and Vivian Richards would be a brilliant conversation.
But that being said, I think Mandela, obviously, not only did he forgive his own demons, the people that demonized him, but I think the fact that he could use that to heal an entire nation, right? An entire nation that was under apartheid for over 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, great pick. By the way, no one's ever picked Nelson Mandela, but
my outside pick would be Donald Trump, and I'd have a rapid fire for 24 hours with him. Just to see
I'd love a video of that. You have to get a video of that whenever that does happen. Besides your startup, what is one thing you're obsessed with right now?
Sport. Always obsessed. Yeah. I play golf. I'm addicted to golf at the moment. It's the one thing that's opened up again. So yeah, golf.
What is something most people would be surprised to find out about you? And obviously now they know that you play tons of sports. So.
That I am an absolute foodie. I love food. I live to eat.
Are you serious? I can't believe that you would eat. You're like,
I was 22.
Wow.
A massive love for food and cooking. I love cooking as well. Yeah.
And on that, I think the next question. This is the first time I'm asking it, but I've always believed that there are two kinds of pain. There's the pain of regret and the pain of discipline. And the pain of regret, weighs tons, and the pain of discipline weighs ounces, right? So, is there one regret that you still carry with you today?
Yeah, I don't believe people who say I live with no regrets and I have no regrets. I mean, I think you always have. I think my one regret was not fulfilling my potential as a cricketer. I think I was on the cusp. I had the opportunity. Whether it's my knee let me down and then I pushed it too hard too early and I didn't have the knowledge of how to go about my physiotherapy the right way, or I was too excited to get back to the IPL and things like that. My one regret is that I think it still pricks me, right? When I see friends of mine playing the IPL, or I'm interviewing a guy I used to play cricket with, I think, man, what could have been, right? And I think you never get to therefore display where your game actually was. So yeah, it's a pity that I didn't actually get a full season or a few games in the IPL or in Ranji Trophy.
You always carry those kind of regrets, and completely agree with you. But I guess that those are the kind of things you learn from, that in the next phase of life, when you're doing something like Kabbadi Adda, which is obviously so far ahead of its time, right? You then gain that patience. So you probably were getting prepared for today.
Yeah, it also taught me the biggest, most profound lessons of my life, right? I think the darkest phase taught me the biggest lesson that I've now carried forward and applied to every other part of my life and to relationships and everything else. So yeah, I think I look back and that's a regret, but it's also been the biggest lessons.
And what is one book that you're reading right now?
Right now, I'm actually reading nothing. I'm just not in a reading mind space at all. I reread actually Compassionate Samurai because I just wanted to go through it again. And I actually wrote an article about it recently. So I think I dove back into that just because I think COVID was a time to reflect a little bit and go back to, what's important to you. So yeah, I think that's again a book that I literally went back to 2 weeks ago.
To be honest, I'm going to download that book right after this show and I'm going to read that because I'm on a break next week. So that's going to be a book I'm definitely going to read. So thank you for that. So with that, rapid fire is over. We can, take a calm breath. now. But that being said, I really, it's amazing how much I have found out about you, even after knowing you for 18 months, right?
Yeah.
And amazing story. I mean, before we end, and we're at the hour limit now. Suhail, is there anything you want to say to people, like sort of leave them with maybe if your life was your message, what would that message be?
I think someone reminded me of this recently, and I read it somewhere as well. Is to be like water, and I think that really recently it just really resonated with me.
Loosely.
Be fluid, and be like water. Because I think when you look at water, and the biggest and the most incredible aspects of water, it's fluidity, right? When it sees an obstacle, it finds a path around it. When it hits a roadblock, it weaves a way around it, right? And our life is going to be full of challenges, obstacles, times when you're just going to be flattened and you feel like the whole world is crashing, and it's happened to each of us, right? I don't like to use the words depression and all this stuff loosely, but I'm saying everyone goes through bad times, and I think it's how you bounce back from those times that you're going to have to be tested on, right? And you've got to be able to change your dreams and change the way your dreams manifest. I think a lot of people say, oh, this was my dream and I didn't get there, but along that way, if you actually open your eyes to opportunities, I think there's reminders that your dream could actually take a different direction and follow and come back to that path just from a side route. And I think you've just got to be able to be fluid enough to take those opportunities. So yeah, I would say, embrace change, enjoy change, and believe that things happen for the good. Whether you see it now or whether you see it in 10 years, there's some reason behind it. You've got to trust life.
So I think that there isn't a better way for me to end today's show. Be like water, be like Suhail. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, guys.